Welcome to the Accounting Arc Podcast, where analysis, reaction, and comedy collide to tackle the big topics from the world of accounting and beyond. Join our trio of transformation agents as they discuss the hottest topics in and out of the profession, from breaking down industry trends, to reacting to everyday events, to uncovering the hidden humor in numbers. With wisdom, insight, and a dash of levity, they're proving that accounting isn't just about the numbers. It's about life. Because after all, accounting is in everything. The Accounting Arc Podcast starts now.
Welcome back to another episode of ARC. Today, I'm pretty excited to be talking about client service or customer service, however you want to say it. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart because I think it's something our profession was founded on and somehow got away from. I can tell you in my firm, the biggest reason we hear that clients are looking for a new CPA firm is the lack of client service. So, what do you guys think?
Well, I there was a study done years ago. I suspect both of you are probably familiar with it, that where they were trying to figure out what leads to malpractice lawsuits against doctors. And after they did tons of research, collected tons of data, they looked at, the treatment outcomes, the diseases, the procedures, all of these things. They couldn't find any good correlation until they started measuring bedside manner. And what they found is the doctors with the worst bedside manner also had the highest rates of malpractice lawsuits. Bedside manner is customer service. And, I think, us as a profession, most of us are trained as technicians to be accountants and technical. And I don't know about you, but I don't know of any, at least business classes I had in college that prepared me to deliver good customer service. In fact, I would argue most of my customer service experience came from being a paper boy as a kid. I think I agree with you that it is probably one of the highest value things. In fact, you could be a marginal accountant and be really good at customer service, and I think still be successcill.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm gonna start a list of all the jobs Byron's had. Money bags, paperboy. Just gonna have a running list going for everyone because I think it's fascinating. And his resume is 75 pages long. And also,
it points to the importance of interdisciplinary thinking.
Yes,
absolutely.
But you make a valid point, right? If you're really good with customers, if you're good with people, if you can actually interact well and people feel heard and they feel like you are trying to solve their problems and you are attempting to do the best that you are capable or your firm is capable of and hold yourself accountable, it makes a giant difference in client satisfaction. But on the flip side, we're accountants, right? So we've been learning a lot about how to maximize gross margin, how to make sure that we are the most profitable we can be, right? And looking at things from not only just an accounting perspective, but from a, systemic perspective of capitalism. And where are we supposed to focus? And focusing on profits and focusing on clients do not have to be mutually exclusive. But good communication sometimes takes time. And when you're tracking all your hours to the 0.01 of an hour, trying to maximize your billable time, how do you maintain client service?
Well, that's probably a completely different podcast on tracking time. But I would agree with you that both of you, that there is this distinction between the technician, which is what we're trained on, and the customer service. What I'm kind of struggling with in my head right now is, do we teach customer service as part of the curriculum? Because I was part of the CPA Evolution change, and what we did was we actually put a bunch of IT in to the change in the curriculum because we felt there was the need for more technical understanding. So that was brought in. The reason I'm kind of struggling with should that be in the curriculum is that something that that really needs to be part of the accounting core, or is this something that perhaps even each firm may want to teach on its own because of what you want to do is indoctrinate the person into your version of client, what we would call client experience, and the way we think clients should be served? Because if I was working, for example, at an H&R Block compared to a mass tax shop, which would kind of be the same but still CPA firm, compared to a higher end firm versus a lifestyle firm, would it be different in each of those?
I think it comes down to the firm. I would now. I'm not a firm owner. I've been a business owner in the past, and when I owned an IT company, frankly, the people I hired, I've always valued customer service. And honestly, it's not even a joke. It goes back to my paperboy days and beyond. And part of my interview process was asking people what they valued in a customer experience to understand what their lens was of what it means to deliver good customer service. And if you're a firm that values that and wants to support it, I think that should be part of your interview process, and then absolutely fostered and trained within the organization, because I think there's a lot of people who haven't learned what good customer service looks like and how to deliver it. And that, in a sense, I almost, to me, think by the time you're hiring people into your firm, a lot of that's already, that story's been written with respect to people's understanding of customer service.
So I agree. And I also agree with you, Donnie, that it's going to depend on where the firm sits, right? Like, are you a value priced type firm? And I mean that not in like, are you billing for your value? I mean that in, are you a value? Like, are you low price, right? If you're a low price, you can't spend as much time, right? So if you're underbidding the competition and people are coming to you because they want a very competitive, cheap price, then they're not going to expect as much, right? And so like the price value matrix kind of explains that for different firms and different entities and helps firms identify and define what they're looking for. And that's a really good interview question too. Like, where do you sit in the price value matrix? If they don't know what that means, you can say, well, are you medium price, low price, high price? What do your clients expect? And coming into it, knowing what you want to service and how you want to service it. If you want to ignore emails, go to a company that's pricing really, really low. If you love responding to people, you like picking up the phone, you like talking, go to a high priced firm where they expect a lot of client interaction. But I want to take this back to kind of the beginning of accounting in the way that we see it now, right? So firms in the US, let's go back to like 1950. In 1950, accounting firms were all about the experience. They were capable of pricing well enough to really have deep relationships with their clients. As technology developed, how did that change? As we got more and more tech, these firms said, oh, technology can handle that. Technology can handle this. And unfortunately, it kind of started eroding that human to human connection and the ability to build those deep relationships, and got it to a point where, a few years ago, we were looking at, tax and audit services and commodity pricing and saying, well, they're going to shop this out. If we're not competitive, we're not going to get the work. What do we think we're going to have to write off from an hours perspective? What additional tech can we employ to get rid of hours on this front? What does that cost? And looking at it truly from how do we manage this to the cost versus how do we manage the customer relationship? How do we build strong, deep relationships with our clients to where they're willing to pay a little bit more for these things that are now kind of compliance and commodity requirements? At least that's how I see it.
I would add to that. I agree with that change. I would add to that, though, that when we look at the firms, especially if you think about probably the 80s, 90s, maybe even early 2000s, the person responsible for client service, the actual interaction with the client or the client relationship, would generally have been, I don't know if it's even a man. I was going to say manager, but I don't know if it's even a manager. I think in those years it would have been a senior manager or a partner that was primarily doing it. So because I'm coming back to the curriculum piece, which is why we didn't teach that, and we still don't teach that in the curriculum, because when you're a junior or entry level, you are a technician. You're doing the actual return, you're doing the actual audit testing and all that kind of stuff, and you're not at that point where you're necessarily having to deliver client service per se.
I agree. So how has our industry shifted?
It's interesting. I remember when I started my career, right at the beginning of Y2K, the small firm that I was part of was part of I would say one of the early accounting like alliance organizations. You may have heard of them. You've at least heard of the founder probably. It was called Ran One at the time, and the founder was Paul Dunn from Australia or New Zealand. And I'll never forget one of the big videos that they'd done was they recorded the customer service experience at like a boutique dental practice where you walked into the dental practice and it was like just this amazing customer experience. Like from the moment you walked in, your name was on the marquee and they like, did all these things for you. And basically it was saying like, why aren't accounting firms this way? Like it was trying to educate accounting firms how to create this like killer customer experience. And Liz, as you were talking about, like in the 50s, there was a great personal experience. It was a one-on-one, like human to human interaction. And then maybe through the 80s and 90s with personal computers and spreadsheets and everything like this, that is where a lot of it was lost. And then like early 2000s, I mean, at least through RAN 1, there was definitely an effort to bring customer service back into accounting. But I had never really thought about the polarity between like maybe technology enablement and customer service being at odds with each other.
Well, it's the
Well,
whole
I don't.
disintermediation, right? I mean, that's continued when we see social media come in now with AI. It's just a continued disintermediation.
Okay, first off, Byron, you need to define Y2K. And second off, Donnie, you need to define disintermediation.
Go ahead, Byron.
Oh my gosh. So I will make this short and quick, but it is entertaining. So Y2K was a thing year 2000 because all of the Microsoft computers had not been programmed to support the year 2000 and beyond. So there was this scramble around the globe to patch that because there was a fear that basically Armageddon was going to happen January 1st, 2000, because all of the banking systems and financial markets were going to crash because of this bug in Microsoft's programming to not support the year 2000, therefore Y2K.
Which everyone thought the computers would think was 1900 instead of 2000.
That's right. That's right. We would roll back, the world would end, and yeah,
Essentially.
and it was a non-event. I don't know if that was because of all of the scrambling or just because it wasn't that catastrophic of an issue.
There's definitely an alternate reality where everything exploded.
No doubt.
I'm glad we're not on that timeline.
Not today, anyways.
That's right. Give it some
All
time.
right, Donnie, disintermediation.
In this context of disintermediation, Liz started off with it's really person to person in the way that we're delivering service. As technology comes in the middle, it disintermediates the two human to human. So it becomes the intermediary. Technology becomes the intermediary, and we see that a lot texting is a good example. Instead of having a phone to phone conversation, you text, and now texting or messaging in general becomes the disintermediation between communication.
Yeah. And I think anyone who has ever said, I'm just going to have that conversation the next time I see that person, so it's not going to go over well on text, understands exactly what that means and what it means for human emotions and the way that we interact. But I would argue that the technology does not have to create a situation where client service is not as good. I think we can use a lot of tech. I think we can use really cool applications, even some communication platforms where it enhances client service and actually supports more human-to-human connection and saves the time that we're using for the people side of it, the customer service side of it, from, the boring details, to be very frank.
Yeah, it's
So,
really interesting because if you think about it, for years, the concept of the client portal was really like kind of anchored in this idea of customer service, right?
mhm.
And I would, and I think all of you probably would agree that the client portal has been anything but a positive customer experience for most customers. I think there may be a small minority of customers who say, I want a customer portal so I don't have to talk to people. But by and large, it's been something that has actually been a great disintermediary, as you said, Donnie, for the person-to-person interaction.
Spoken like a true extrovert.
But that's interesting because Byron took that client portal to conversation. When I hear client portal, I think file exchange, because most of the client portals don't support conversation. Most of them really only support file exchange. So it becomes this email exchange. So to me, email became the first disintermediary or intermediary that displaced. And it said, okay, and then upload it here, right? It became the thing. And you got the link, and you got the link to the client portal, and then you have them upload it. Now we're seeing the conversation shift because now I've got the app instead of perhaps just the website portal. And that's being on the phone and being able to upload the picture of my tax documents or whatever to my tax advisor, my return preparer. Like, that starts to become, I'm actually going to also say that I think that's actually a positive, because now instead of bringing the shoebox of stuff, it's like, take the pictures, which is the rudimentary work that we as accountants don't want to necessarily have to do. So you push it back on the client. You make them take all the pictures of all the stuff, which then uses AI and the other technology to actually read and hopefully, bring and automate more of the actual bookkeeping or tax return process.
But that was the thing, like before the portal or the upload file exchange utility, usually you had people show up with the folder, the shoebox, the shopping bag, whatever. You sat down, you had a little conversation, you went through everything, you said, take all this shit with you, we'll keep this and we'll copy it, whatever the case may be. And then when you get your stuff, we'll give it all back to you. And then, down the road, the client would say, I need my tax return because I'm getting a mortgage. So they would call you up and you'd have a conversation and say, sure, we'll put that in the mail for you. But there was like all this human connection that had to happen due to that file exchange. And then we brought in the client portal and we were like, great news. You don't have to talk to anybody anymore to exchange files. Now it'll just happen digitally and you don't have to have those touch points. But in a sense, a lot of those touch points were all part of the customer experience.
So how do you do both, right? I think that there are ideal processes. And Donnie, I smirked while you were explaining that, because that would be an ideal process for a tax team, right? The client does the upfront organization, sends it through an AI. You get a perfectly organized file. It gets read into a tax prep system, and then you're just reviewing, right? You're not doing the actual basic prep side. That doesn't work. It doesn't work well. It works sometimes. Pieces of it work. Some of it breaks a lot. And then you have a vendor, and then you have customer service with a vendor, which has not been wonderful. And it creates another layer of problems with your client. So your client's expecting a certain timeline. They're expecting their return to pop up in their portal and for you to send a nice email that's probably automated saying, hey, your return's done. It's been reviewed. It's ready for signature. Go sign these e-file docs. They click on the link. The e-file docs aren't there. They can't find their return, or there's only a draft, or they can't find their documents, or something else happens. Then they're calling an intern on the phone saying, hey, I need help. And the intern's not trained in customer service, has no idea how to talk to this client, and is like, just click the button. It's really easy. And the client's like, I don't see the button. This is what happens in real life.
This is what happens in real life. And, I think we are in a challenging moment in time with respect to comfort of using technology, and where the age of our clients, and I think there is a difference in those clients who are very comfortable finding the button and those who aren't. I mean, this past week, I had to send an email to 14 parents of my daughter's lacrosse team because I need a video from all of them because we're doing senior videos. So I said, I need a video. I'm going to share with you a Google Drive folder. I need you to upload that video to the Google Drive folder. Half of the parents had no idea how to access a Google Drive folder, let alone upload a file to it. These are the people we're asking to find the button to upload the documents, to download the documents. It's there is a large population of people who just are not comfortable using the technology in the ways that we would love to see them using them.
Right. And then I would add in the layer of vendor customer service as well, right? Like today, even I received an email from one of our vendors that said, if you become a gold partner, you can expect 4 times faster customer service. And here I am going, no. Customer service should be excellent for all users, not just the ones that pay you a lot of money. That is capitalism at its worst. So, the button might not exist. Honestly, it might be a account provisioning issue. It might be IT messed up. It might be that you don't have the right level of service on the app, or somehow an update took it away. But the button might not exist, and you might actually need the vendor customer service to actually give a good client experience to your clients. And so now you're managing, I think our firm has 22 applications that we are strategic partners with, and that's actually not that high. We've been eliminating and limiting who we work with on a regular basis to ensure that we have what we think is best in class. Although reevaluating after getting that email today about expect worse customer service if you don't have, 30 plus clients on our platform. But I go back to that becomes another layer that you have to manage client service for. And how many times is your end users, your end client going to accept, okay, I have a ticket in with the company. Right. Like, I'll get back to you in 3 to 7 days.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel great.
No, and that's something that I think gets overlooked a lot of times when people are shopping for vendors, and those vendors may be accounting firms, is to inquire what is that support or customer service experience, because you have expectations, but the expectations do not align. And I've seen that so many times. I agree with you. Like, I'm not going to pay for premium support on a product I am already paying for. Either build the cost of premium support into the licensing that I am already paying for, or it just needs to be available for all customers. And you've figured it out on the back end. I would seriously be reevaluating that experience, and especially if it's a product that has customer-facing implications. Because if you're a firm, that's unacceptable. And
agreed.
And
scary. It's scary
and
that they're using that as a selling point to sell more for them.
It's such a classic model that I think is, a day for another conversation, but I think the entire VC software back space is so skewed and screwed up with respect to the way they're looking at things. I mean, they're just looking to increase their expansion metric by creating a brand new premium support thing. Like it's a bunch of bogus. But to bring it back to the accounting firms, and especially the students who are listening, if you do want to work in an organization where customer service is valued and the experience is there, that should be part of your interview process as you are evaluating firms to find out what that means to a firm and what that looks like in a customer experience. Because I can tell you, most people don't do that. They just go to firms to find out if they can, do XYZ technical things at those firms. And there's no conversation about what does it look like to be a client of this firm.
Well, and to bring it full circle, I opened this by saying the number one reason we hear clients are looking for a new accounting firm is lack of client service. And that lack of client service can be on their engagement. It could be on the technology as well. And I tell you, we have many clients that add in an optional, we will deal with the technology vendor support if you have issues for you, because they don't want to deal with it. They don't have time to deal with it. They're dealing with a million other things at their companies. And so, I think understanding what client service looks like, making sure that what you're good at, what you want to do, and ending up, or, even finding as you move in your career, what keeps you happy. And for me, it's deep, meaningful relationships, even with my clients. And our team mimics that and has a great time with our clients, and we have great relationships because that matters. And we're not going to have better client service for client X because it's bigger than client Y because it's smaller, right? Everybody is equal.
No doubt. No doubt. That's awesome.
Any final thoughts, Donny?
I'm trying to wrap my brain through everything, and the one thing that I keep coming back to though is, and I'm going to stereotype a little, so forgive me, give me a little leeway on this one. The younger generation is not about client service, and it's really about, well, it's a transactional thing. I'm just going to buy my thing, or I just want to do the chat, right? This is what they're accused of all the time. Well, don't talk to me, just send me a message on whatever app it is, right? Slack me, whatever, in the thing. And also, I'm not operating on you, the client's time. I'm operating on my time. My time is important, and I need more my work-life balance, and my personal stuff, like my my bridesmaid whatever party thing. I forget. I just listened to some of that stuff saying that was more important than this other career thing they had to do. That's more important than my work. So how do we reconcile this whole need for improved client service with perhaps this rebalancing of, I need to pay attention to my personal life?
I would like to field this question because I live this life. I work a ton. I work with clients a ton. And I also have a very active life, and I travel and I do cool things. And in ski season, I'm on the mountain half days almost every day. And it's healthy boundaries. It is healthy boundaries. It is setting your schedule in advance, figuring out what time is dedicated to work, what time is dedicated to personal. And sometimes in your early career, it's difficult to manage that. And also, you can come into a company and say, hey, here's what I'm expecting. Here's what I need. This is what I want to do. And I have heard of so many different companies working with people to say, okay, so you're telling me that all these life events are coming up. You don't really want to work full time. You're looking for 30 hours a week. Let's define a role around that. Let's define your schedule around what that looks like and give you the right client load to handle it. I can tell you some of the bigger, more old school cultures in our industry are struggling with that, but there's plenty of firms out there that will do that for people. The only expectation you have to understand is you're not going to get a Big Four salary if you're working for a firm and you're not working 80 hours a week, because that's the expected that's the expected time commitment, and you have to answer the phone and show up at your partner's request. Whereas in other firms, they might say, oh yeah, I respect healthy boundaries. You don't want to work a Friday? Totally fine. Do 4 10s. Cool. Set those expectations with your clients. My clients know if they message me first thing in the morning and say, I have an emergency, if I can't get on the phone with them, someone else on my team will. I have a team. Everybody has a team. You can message your team and say, hey, so and so is having a whatever emergency. They need help today. Can somebody call them? Or can somebody chat with them? Whatever it is, however they prefer to communicate. And then add in the level of technology, right? So I can be on the chairlift answering emails. It's generally an 11.5 minute ride from the base to the summit. I can take those 11.5 minutes every run and answer emails. It is not that hard for me to do that. And it does not disrupt me. And honestly, it keeps me happier because then I don't come back to an inbox of hell. I come back to a managed inbox and people know that I'm responsive and I'm still doing things, right? The only unfortunate side effect of that is sometimes when the service isn't great, stuff ends up sitting in drafts and doesn't actually get sent. So known problem, tech glitch, and also things that are manageable, right? And then, personally, I prefer chat. Like if I'm dealing with customer service for some company because something didn't happen or I have to return something or there's some BS, I don't want to sit on hold and talk to someone about it. I want to type it out once and be like, fix this. And they can come back and ask me questions and I can answer them really easily from my phone while I'm doing something else, while I'm doing yard work, while I'm playing with my kid, while I'm outside. Doesn't matter. That makes it so much easier and better for me. So it's not that customer service has to be in person, on a Zoom call, on the phone. It doesn't have to be that way. It can be tech enabled. It's what the people are comfortable with and how they want to interact with you. But you need to know that. If you treat a client that wants phone calls with only text messages, they will be pissed. But if you treat a client that hates phone calls with text messages, they will love you. So you have to ask the questions and set up the expectations and build your boundaries around it and set those expectations in advance. And don't respond to everything until 3 a.m. in the morning, no matter what the media comes in as, and then the next day not do it because they're going to be expecting it. And if they want that, probably not the best fit for you if that's not the life you want, right? We screen clients based on their expectations of response. Before we even take a prospect call, we have a survey. And one of the questions is very unassuming, but it says, when do you expect a response? And it gives an example where somebody emails Friday at 4 p.m. And we work in all sorts of time zones. So their customer service manager's off. They say they would like a response within an hour. No, right? That's a hard stop. If they say they're going to, expect a response Saturday and expect the problem solved the next day, not a good fit. If they say Monday morning, first business hour for my customer, my, account manager, great, perfect. That's what we do. So I go back to this incoming generation, I think has a much healthier set of understanding for life. They are less deluded that the only thing that matters is making money, and also are in a situation where it almost doesn't matter how much money you make at your first job. It's still not enough to really live, comfortably in the lifestyle that's been promised by TikTok and TV. So how do you find comfort and happiness in the limitations that you have from a financial perspective? And that includes boundaries and finding ways to live your life.
I like that.
Rant over.
I like that very balanced answer because I agree with you on that. I hear too often that it's I want all or nothing. And it's then you're probably going to get nothing because that's what we do. When we see an applicant come in, we're like, no, way too high maintenance, way too high expectations. And there's no way they're going to deliver enough value back to us for us to deliver it to the clients. So, and I think the other ones, because we do have a lot of practitioners that actually listen as well. In the end, if you listen to a lot of what Liz said, it came back to this whole client experience. What is the client experience that you're creating? What expectations are you setting with your clients for when your team will respond? Because my team is the same. Ours is Monday through Friday, business hours. If you send something at 4 on Friday, don't expect it until even one business day is our expectation. So you might get a response on Tuesday if you sent it on Friday. But client experience, boundaries, that's another one that comes up a lot in our personal resilience series on how do you actually make sure you don't burn yourself out. It's setting those proper boundaries around work, around when you work and when you also don't work, and what you're allowing people to do or not do with you, whether it's via email, chat, or whatever the situation might be.
And I think there's, one piece of boundaries, which of course we could do a whole other episode just on boundaries, but there's one piece where I think the incoming generation gets a little confused on, right? You are still being paid to deliver a job, right? If you can't deliver that job because you have quote unquote boundaries, then your boundaries don't align with your employer, and that should not be your job. Right. And so you have to come into it expecting that you know where you sit, you know what your boundaries are, explain that in an interview. And if they tell you they can accommodate that, you should be good. If they tell you, hey, that's not really how we function here, maybe it's not the right place for you and what you need. But you can't go into a job with certain expectations and certain deliverables and then be like, I have boundaries. That's not really boundaries. That's different. That's just violating an employment contract, as it turns out.
Okay, how do you summarize what we just talked about?
Byron started at the Y2K, almost apocalypse, and was a paper boy. Donny likes to use fancy words like disintermediation when referencing technology interrupting human-to-human connection. I believe that client service is becoming more important every day and will be more important as we develop better technologies to facilitate that. There are ways to manage doing everything, making sure clients are satisfied and happy and still having a really great life. And also, it is important to learn these skills whether you get it in school or not.
And Liz accomplishes her customer service from the chairlift. 11 and a half.
Accurate. I also studied for the CPA exam on a chairlift, so it's a common theme in my career.
Bottom line, communication is what I heard too. It's all expectations, boundary setting, client experience.
Oh, no.
This is all about communication skills, which I don't think any of us will disagree that when we look at who are the most successful accountants and vendors in the space, it's the ones that can communicate well. So that's the key point there, communication, which is not something taught in school. So figure out how you're going to get that experience, how you're going to actually be able to differentiate yourself by showing that you are a great communicator.
Oh, and I learned one thing from Byron years ago. Be very humble, set the bar very low, and don't tell people how awesome you are, and then just overperform and blow them out of the water every time.
I learned that from my lifeguarding experience.
What?
Adding lifeguards to the list.
It's like, I might be able to save you, maybe. But,
wait, had to do
let me save
with
you.
cleaning the grills at the pool. I learned very quickly, don't be really good at it, or you'll be assigned that job every summer going forward.
Good to know.
Well, that's probably the best piece of advice as we close out. Don't do so good on cleaning grills.
See y'all.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
The Center for Accounting Transformation provides business professionals with a network for utilizing innovations that are ready for adoption, the training and resources necessary to apply those innovations, and an opportunity to engage the talent and community needed to further the pursuit of innovative accounting practices that drive responsible and mindful business performance. Find out more at our website, www.improvetheworld.net. And if you're interested in sharing your own transformation stories, please contact us there.